So when I was 27, I was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. I worked through healing, years of working with counselors and friends who just loved and accepted me until I learned to love and accept them, heard their stories, found out what happened, and then blended. I then had to grieve out all that happened to my body that I had not known about. And this is 20 years later when I'm finally deciding to break the silence, to talk about it, to let other people know that there is hope, there is healing, that God can restore a wounded and broken, fractured mind and heart. And right now I'm just giving you little bits and pieces about some of the different parts that I had. And I have 2 parts that I wanted to share about. I don't believe they had names. I kind of nicknamed them myself just so I knew who I was talking about. One, she wore a black long dress and it had little red roses down the front of it, and it was her mourning gown. She was my little one who just wanted to die. Literally, she was just so sad and so heartbroken and so crestfallen. She was young, and it wasn't even worth crying. There was just, so yeah, she didn't even feel like crying. It was just done. She was just done, and she would wear her long black funeral gown, and she occasionally would go in to see Leah and would get dressed and go in because it was just, life was too hard. Life was too hard to carry all this pain. And so that's one of the things. The other one I called my zombie. And I called her that because she scared the blithering daylights out of me. Like, have you ever looked in the mirror and not seen yourself looking back at you? It was the scariest thing. I would look in the mirror and my eyes, I swear, sunk 10 inches into my head and hollowed out underneath my eyes, and I looked like a walking ghost. Like, ice cold hands instantly. Like, it was like I was being held in a freezer, like just cold. And you could put 6 jackets on me and I was still cold. You could not warm me up. I was ice cold from the inside out. And I remember one time I went to work and I was working on some things, and I can't even tell you to this day what happened. I don't know if it was a phone call. I don't know if it was a client that walked in. I don't know if it was somebody in the office cracking up a joke. All I know is she flipped out, and it was instant. And it was trying to pretend to still be me, Stephanie, working in the office. I was very much hoping nobody would call, so I did not have to talk to anyone, because she didn't have much of a voice, only because it was just, she was frozen. She was absolutely frozen. And I remember sitting at my desk, and my hands, I should say her hands were just ice, and I was just, how many hours left? How many minutes left? Can I go home yet? Can I go home yet? And I wouldn't even look up. I would look down, or she, I say I know because we're just one. But 20 years ago, I was split. She was separate from me, and I knew she was there, and I couldn't do much about it because I do not know what freaked her out. And it was, I want to go home. 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 Just silent. And one of my coworkers that I had worked with for 4 or 5 years looked up and like literally gasped. Steph, are you okay? Like, literally, that's what he said. Like, and I looked up at him, and the look on his face is like the look I feel like I'm giving myself when I look in the mirror and see this face. And I knew then that, yep, sure enough, my little zombie was out, and there was nothing I could do about it. And I don't lie, so I couldn't very well say, yeah, sure, I'm great, because I didn't. She was very good. She's like, no, not okay. And he was so kind, because he's like, I I am so sorry. I hope things get better. And I think that was the kindest thing he could have said to me. And we trudged through the next hour or two until I could leave for work. And I grabbed my stuff and I went and got in the car and I got home. And I am sure I called Leah and just asked her to pray for me because it was very scary. Yeah, her memories, she was very cold, very, very cold. And I will leave you another message and tell you how God met her in Leah's office, and it was pretty amazing. So thanks for listening to my story. Thanks for listening and finding out who my parts were. And there's so much more to come.